in 1900s New York. A woman in a dirt-stained black dress is seen haggling over the price of a broken bone at a local butcher shop. She looks homeless, desperate, a ghost of the Gilded Age. But the woman in the rags isn't looking for a handout. She has more cash in the bank than the city of New York itself. In fact, when the city was collapsing during the Panic of 1907, this woman personally bailed them out. She sat in a cold office and wrote a check for $1.1 million. This is Hetty Green. To the rest of the world, she was the Witch of Wall Street. But behind the billions was a woman consumed by a fear so dark, she forgot how to be human. Why does the richest woman in America live in a series of cheap, unheated apartments under fake names? Why does she hide behind a veil of rags? Today, we perform an autopsy on a soul that chose a fortune over a life. The clock is ticking on a legacy built on ice. Welcome to Dark Gilded Truth. Here, we peel back the gold leaf from history's most opulent empires to reveal the ruthless greed and hidden shadows that built and broke them. We dissect the blueprints of the human soul. I'm your guide through the archives. If you find value in these archives today, I invite you to follow us, but only if you're genuinely impressed with the truth we uncover. Hetty Green was born into the cold, salty air of a wealthy New Bedford whaling family. But while other girls were reading fairy tales, Hetty's father had her reading stock reports at 6 years old. By the time she was 13, she was the family's head bookkeeper. She wasn't raised with love, she was raised with a warning. Everyone is a predator. Her father taught her that relatives were just people waiting for you to die, so they could steal your coins. This wasn't just parenting, it was psychological conditioning for a war that never ended. She grew up believing that a dollar was a shield, and everyone else was trying to break it. When she finally inherited her fortune, she didn't just grow it, she weaponized it. Hetty was the original Vulture Investor. She didn't buy when the market was booming. She waited. She waited for the crash. While everyone else was losing their homes and their dignity, Hetty stepped out of the shadows. She bought their debt for pennies and squeezed them for every cent. She never invested in anything she couldn't see or touch. Gold, railroads, government bonds, real estate. She was a master of the markets, but her strategy was built on the misery of others. She was a silent partner in the destruction of men. To her, the stock market wasn't a playground. It was a battlefield, and she was the last one standing. By the late 1800s, Hetty Green was worth over $100 million. In today's money, that is $2.5 billion. She was the most powerful woman on Wall Street and the most feared. But as the vault grew larger, her world grew smaller. The fear her father planted had grown into a forest. She began to see thieves in every shadow and lawyers in every doorway. The gold was starting to feel heavy. The richest woman in the world was about to make a choice that would haunt her legacy forever. A choice that would prove that money doesn't solve fear. It feeds it. Is it better to be a billionaire in a cage or a pauper in the sun? We are about to witness the moment the Witch of Wall Street lost her own soul for the price of a doctor's bill. The true autopsy of Hetty Green began when her son Ned injured his leg in a sledding accident. A billionaire mother would have hired the world's best surgeons, but Hetty was terrified of the bill. She dressed herself and her son in rags and dragged him to a free clinic for the poor to avoid paying. When the doctors recognized her and demanded payment, she fled. She tried to treat the shattered bone at home to save a few dollars. Because of the delay, the leg became gangrenous. By the time she finally sought help, Ned's leg had to be amputated. She chose a stack of coins over her own son's limb, a debt paid in blood. She spent her final years living like a fugitive. She moved from one unheated, $5 a month apartment to another, using fake names to avoid taxes and theft. She ate oatmeal, heated on a radiator, because it was cheaper than a stove. She lived in constant, shivering fear of the wealth she had spent her life building. She would carry a heavy chain of keys to different safe deposit boxes, moving her gold like a squirrel hiding nuts from a winter that never ended. Hetty Green died in 1916 after a heated argument with a maid about the price of skim milk. At 81 years old, the heart that wouldn't spend a penny finally stopped beating. She was alone. She was cold. She left behind $2.5 billion and a son with one leg, who spent every cent of his inheritance the moment she was in the ground. The fortune was finally free, but Hetty was gone. We look at Hetty Green and see a monster, but how many of us are building our own cages? We live in a world obsessed with scarcity. We hoard our time, our energy, and our love, waiting for a rainy day that never ends. The dark gilded truth is that money is a tool for freedom, but if you worship it out of fear, it becomes your prison. Hetty Green died a billionaire, but she never spent a single night in a home she felt safe in. She spent her life protecting her fortune, but she forgot to spend her life. Before you chase your next million, ask yourself, are you building a real legacy or just a bigger cage? Like and subscribe and activate notifications to see what else history is hiding in the shadows. We'll see you in the next autopsy.